What's going on, guys and gals? Bonafide Hustler here, and today this show is 10 items that I sold on eBay, Craigslist, and my booth. So no Amazon on this kind of stuff. I try to find some really cool, well, I wouldn't say diverse pictures because there's some really interesting stuff that we're going to be talking about today. It's definitely a little bit more heavyweighted on the remote control or radio controlled side. And I think that's definitely one of those things where a lot of people are very mystified on it, but there's a lot of, you'll see some correlations through some of these things I'm about to show you. And I think it'll give you a nice little bird's eye perspective on at least 3 kinds of things to look for with radio control. And then we have some other pictures that are just kind of random. You'll see what I'm talking about. So anyway, I want to make sure that I sound good, right? We got 5 viewers in the house right now. If you are watching right now and it says live on the video, then you can comment and I will see it. Yeah, so I'm looking at the comment feed right now. We got Texas Hustle in the house. Ben H, good to see you guys. Yeah, and one of the things I've actually been doing lately is starting to vlog some of my days, which is kind of interesting. So if you ever see a Bonafide Hustler, hey, if you ever see a Bonafide Hustler videos, anything, just make sure you hit the like button, because I always try to put out really good content and stuff that can teach you guys something down the road to where, you know, hopefully it'll pique your hopefully when you're around, let's say, an item that I've been talking about or talked about in the past, it'll jog your memory a little bit and you'll be like, holy crap, I think that's what Bonafide was talking about in that video, and you can make some money on behalf of my videos, which is the ultimate goal, right? So hopefully, and also one of the ultimate goals out of the whole thing is that maybe one day you guys take a step and join my green room, which I think would be a fantastic idea. But before we get to that, let's make sure that you guys understand that there is a free guide, all right? It's called 100 Amazing Items to Resell. Funny thing is, today, right, within seconds of walking into a Savers, I found an item from this guide, right? I find items from this guide all the time, but I think it's just a true testament that today, I mean, as soon as I walk into a Savers, I find an item directly from that guide that is sitting there. So I can't tell you what the item is, but you'll see it in the vlog. Definitely get the guide if you have not. It's free down below. We're not charging anything for that guide. You can see the link. It's directly below where you are looking at right now. So if you see my picture, look below it, and that's where the link to the guide is. Okay, so what's up, Free Cycle 53215, Sylvia, Marco, Zahir. Hey, what's up, Zahir? Good to see you, man. Had fun on Zahir and the Nick Hills show, or I guess it's called the Tat Chat with Nick Hills, but Zahir is always there. So good to see you, Zahir. I had a lot of fun. I really did. So anyway, what's up, Bill? All right. Okay, so let's get into this thing real quick. Let's make sure that the audio is good. Very first thing is we want to make sure that the audio is not jacked up, because I would hate to even go through 10 minutes of this show and the audio be jacked. So let me know. I do have a fan running over here, but it's kind of tilted in a weird way to where hopefully you can't hear it. We have Lucky in the house, Armand Middleton, Cape Cod Reseller. I see all you guys. It's good to see you guys. Lucky says, hi, Chris. Thanks for hosting. Download the guide on your smartphone, everyone. See, there you go. I'll pay you later, Lucky. Just kidding. Okay. A lot of people coming in. A lot of people. Okay, so the audio is good. Let's get into the screen share real quick. So like I said, some of the show is radio control car heavy. It's very purposely done. Like I've never lost money on a radio control car deal, okay? And the question is there a whole lot of money to be made on radio control stuff? Absolutely, okay? So you guys need to learn this stuff. I think it's a very valuable thing to have in your quiver or your arsenal when you pull up to a yard sale, garage sale, a pawn shop. I emphasize pawn shop because radio control cars are in pawn shops a lot of times. So anyway, let's talk about these down here. The ones that we're going to be looking at today are electric radio controlled cars and buggies. And yeah, it's going to be really neat. So let me go to the sharing thing and let me know if you can see this first picture and present to everyone. All right, there we go. All right, so hopefully you guys see what's on the screen right here, right? Hopefully you guys see the whole thing. Let me get my mouse. Okay, good. I'm resizing it on my side, but hopefully it doesn't resize on your side. So you can clearly see a race car in the picture, correct? Right? It says screen is frozen. Maybe check your internet, Marco. I think it might be only on your side. But if anything happens on this show, guys, I want you guys to, help me out, help a hustler out, and let me know what's up. If it's audio, if it's video, let me know. All right, I'm going to refresh my feed one time just to make sure that we're clear for takeoff, and we will go and learn some stuff. Okay, so hopefully you can see my mouse pointing around, because I think it's very important that you guys kind of see where the mouse is pointing. All right, so the F1 car right here, you might be thinking, You know, maybe I see this kind of stuff here and there. I don't know what I'm looking for. I don't know what's good, what's bad. So the very first step is when you see one of these things, you have to determine, is this consumer grade? You know, is it a radio control car, first of all, okay? Because if it doesn't have this antenna, a lot of times radio control cars will have antennas, but then again, kids tear them off and stuff on the consumer grade ones. And one of your main goals is to determine whether or not, let's say the race car is a consumer grade remote radio control car or a hobby grade radio control car. Hell, it might even be a car, just a plastic car with nothing inside, and it might just look like it's something really important, but it might not. So you have to be able to decipher these kind of things. So on a radio control hobby car, that's where a lot of the money is, okay? The hobby grade RC. First of all, hobby grade RC has plastic bodies that can be easily taken on and off with these little clips that go right about here, here, and here. Now, when I bought this one, I believe I got this from a pawn shop. It probably was no more than like 30 bucks. I know that this one sold for $100. So let's talk about, you know, how we actually spot that this thing is a radio controlled hobby grade vehicle. So you want to pop the pins off, okay? Some might not come with pins because a lot of times when I see these at pawn shops, for example, they're sitting on top of a shelf. Maybe the controller's not with it. It doesn't really matter because there's so many hobbyists out there that are looking for some of these old F1 cars and they're looking for things to work on. And trust me, if you don't find a controller for a hobby grade radio controlled car or airplane, it's not the end of the world. Believe me, people have controllers out there and they have these things called crystals, which basically matches the frequency between their controller and this car's ESC, which is the electronic speed control, or the transmitter, sorry. So the transmitter receiver and both the, you know, you could basically put it together very quickly, but this is one of the main things you want to have is the actual vehicle, right? Finding the controller is not exactly as, it's not even valuable really at all, right? But if you find the vehicle, now you're talking some money. So let's dive into this vehicle. You pull the cover off, okay? Little thin plastic, sometimes Lexan plastic shell, very, very delicate, you know. In fact, this one was kind of cracked right here, but you will not know. I just remembered just because. And now this is what we have underneath. Now, it being an on-road car, anytime that you take the shell off an on-road type car, typically the chassis is pretty nice, right? Because it's just going through concrete and it's not going through dirt, dust, you know, any of that. It's not jumping in the air. So a lot of times you're going to see very nice interiors. So at this point, if you see this, when you pull off a cover, right, and it doesn't require a screwdriver, because all the consumer grade radio control cars, guys, will require a screwdriver to take off the top typically, because they won't want kids, like, you know, yanking things and this and that and then start eating some of the suspension pieces, and before you know it, you have a choking lawsuit, right? So the hobby grade car will have a very easy to pull off top, usually very easy, within like 3 pins or 4 pins the top will come off. You will see something like this. Okay, so now when you see something like this, and we're talking about, let's say, this F1 car, for example, you have basic stuff like the chassis, right? Battery tray right here. You have A-arms. They're called A-arms because they look like A's. Okay, these are the A-arms right here. And the reason why I want to teach you about A-arms is because when you actually hustle one of these, there's a really good chance, whether it's a buggy or a truck or even one of these F1 cars, that the A-arm might have a crack or it might be broken. It's not the end of the world. These are hobby grade RC. You know, you can just buy the A-arm anywhere and just replace it. But you would kind of want to know, like, what does this piece mean? Or, you know, what is this right here? These are shocks and all that kind of stuff. Here's some wheels. Then you got axle hub carriers in there that you can't see. One of the things that I noticed immediately when I pulled the cover off this car was that there's a drive shaft in the back. You can see it right here. There's also a drive shaft in the front, right? There's a differential right here and there's a drive shaft. Now, what does that mean? That means that both sets of, you know, both axles, right, essentially get power. So this little center rod right here makes this a 4-wheel drive, right, F1 car, which in real life doesn't even really ever exist. It doesn't exist. Like, F1 cars are all rear-wheel drive. But for hobby grade stuff, you know, some people want 2-wheel drive and some people want 4-wheel drive. It's really weird. So just this thing in the middle right here means it's an all-wheel drive car. AWD, okay, because you wouldn't want to put 4WD because that's usually for trucks and buggies, all right? That's a term for that. But AWD is more all-wheel drive. Kind of an important thing to put in the listing. Another thing to put in the listing is that this is a Tamiya, and if you look hard on Tamiya cars, you'll find something stamped with Tamiya, and Tamiya is probably the best brand ever to hustle when it comes to these F1 cars, aside this other brand called Kyosho. Let's go further into this car. This is the ESC right here, and then this is the receiver right here. So a transmitter that looks like a little gun, you know, will send a signal down to this thing, right? And then this thing kind of tells this thing how much input's going into the transmitter, which is the thing that you hold, right, to control these cars around. So essentially, this is kind of like the brain, and then this is like the heart, I guess. And that's what you'll see when you go under, you look under the car, you'll see wires and stuff going to motors. And so anytime you see these big wires, it's usually going to the battery or the motor. And you're looking for signs of like, what is this? You know, when you take pictures, these are exact pictures that went on eBay that I used. And, it's pretty decent underside, quite honestly. In RC F1 terminology, I guess this would be considered pretty good, right? Not that much use. So that's definitely an F1 car. It sold for $100 without a controller. $30. I was able to test it because I had a controller, but quite honestly, it wouldn't have mattered anyway. So just something to look forward to. I mean, I think this was an F201, if I'm not mistaken, or something like that. So they have different codes, just like an FJ Cruiser would be a Toyota SUV, and an FJ40 would be a different model. Well, this one's called, I think, an F201, if I'm not mistaken. And then they have other ones that are like TT01s or CT01s. Depending if it's a rally car or on-road car. So the F1 cars, at least with Tamiya, are usually like F201s, things like that. So something to look forward to, okay? Just make sure that you guys know about Tamiya, which it says it right there. But I talk about it in a lot of my videos, so you guys should pretty much know what's up. Now, let's get into some of the good stuff. I believe, if I'm not mistaken, I hustled both of these for dirt cheap. I mean, this was like super, I want to say it was $50. Like, I'm had to meet someone on Craigslist for these. But yeah, he was just like, I got a gold pan and I have a JRX2. Anyone wants to fix them up, $50. Now, as soon as I hear gold pan or I see a picture that looks like this, if you're ever in a garage sale or thrift store and you start seeing that something looks like a gold pan, like that's what this kind of looks like, right? It's a gold pan. That's the terminology given to the team associated RC10 radio controlled buggy. It was basically like industry standard back then. Like, so many people raced this car. They've souped it up. They put different A-arms on it, right? Even though it doesn't look like an A, they're still considered A-arms. And this is what's called a buggy, okay? And buggies are things that you can envision like a dune buggy, right? And a dune buggy kind of is a little bit more elongated, skinny wheels in the front, kind of fatter sand tires in the back kind of thing. Yeah, so usually the front tires are, this one right here somehow, for some reason, had some on-road, I guess the guy was testing it on a cement kind of thing, but we can tell from the underside that, it's seen a little bit of, it's definitely jumped in the air, right? It's hit some things right here and it's come down on it, but not a huge thing. We know that the A-arm is broken, not a huge thing at all. Remember, you're dealing with vintage RC. Plenty of people out there are looking for parts to soup up their own cars. Maybe they broke their own A-arm and they need this one right here, for example. Maybe they just need another gold pan chassis that they want to redo and build another, buggy out of. There's so many reasons why someone would buy this. So the average selling, I've never sold a gold pan less than $100 on the open market. The highest one I ever sold was like $209 or something like that. So I don't know where this one actually really truly shook out, but I know that's the spread on a gold pan that I've ever found. So this is, it looks like a gold pan, like it looks like an actual skillet kind of, So here's the ESC right here. It's got some wires that go to basically the transmitter, which I believe the receiver, which is right here. And the receiver has a wire that goes out of the car that protrudes through the actual plastic body. All right. And then it communicates with the transmitter, which is the thing that you hold. So the transmitter transmits the signal, it receives it to the car, it decodes it to the ESC, right? And then the ESC basically decodes it to the motor saying, go fast, go slow. And then the other wire of this one goes into what's called a servo right here. And it tells the servo, go right, go left. And that's what this thing is right here. So yeah, gold pan, you might think this looks pretty intricate, but like I said, when you bring up that plastic body, you're going to see stuff like this. If you can bring up a plastic body without using screwdrivers, then you're likely looking at a hobby grade radio controlled buggy, truck, car, F1 car, whatever. So it's very important to take a closer look. Now, The reason why I want to talk about the gold pan thing is because it's definitely an era type thing. Like it ruled its own era. It's super important to know about. It's kind of like the NES system. It's very iconic in radio controlled buggy world, right? And so I think it's an easy thing to spot. I wanted to train you guys about it. Now, when you actually list these RC10 or team associated RC10 gold pan buggies, some people are going to, you're going to see plenty of editions out there, right? And you might be like, well, what edition is this? And sometimes it's very hard to figure it out, right? There's some stealth editions. Anyway, the important part about this is that the pan's real nice. You want to take great pictures, right? Close-ups if you need to, right? If something's broken, take a close-up. I guarantee you that this picture right here didn't make anybody mad. They were just like, send me that thing, hurry up, because I really want to build it up. No returns on these kind of things. I mean, the people that buy them do not return them. This one had aluminum shocks, right, which I'm not 100% sure was stock on the kit. So maybe these are add-ons. We know that they're aluminum. You can see the aluminum shocks right here. Most shocks back then, a lot of times were plastic, right? Plastic reservoirs. This one's aluminum reservoirs. It's got a dust cover for the motor. Most of them had that. Take a closer look right here. The front part of the motor where the gears has the dust cover right here. The back part of the motor gets all the current and contact from the ESC. We can see that it's soldered right here. If you take a closer look, that's where the soldering is going to be done for the negative and positive terminals. The motor basically turns series of gears that, here in this transmission-ish type thing will bring the proper type of reduction to the wheels through these right here. People call them dog bones, but anyway. So that's one of those things you want to look out for. The gold pan, team associated gold pan, very important. All right, really neat kind of thing. And I want to go into the comment feed real quick. And what do we got here? Rake and Profit. What's up, man? What's up, James Myers? If you guys are learning something, let me know. I think it's very important. I love seeing comments, especially when I take a break from, I get really hyped up about this kind of stuff, guys. I really do, because it makes money. And it's absolutely fascinating. You're looking at a piece of history, just like a Nintendo, a Genesis, some of these things. And when you find them in the wild, you're like, holy crap. So like when I find these radio controlled things in the wild, I get super excited. I almost feel as if there's a task upon me, not to challenge myself to see how much I can make, but to indeed at least, rescue the thing, right? And I can decide whether I want to restore it, which I hardly ever do, right? But sometimes I get them working and I can test them out. But most of the time, it's more of a rescue mission. I feel as if, maybe if I don't buy it, then someone else buys it, throws it to a kid, and kid smashes it all over the place, and there's one less chassis and one less body going around that could be circulated back into eBay, right? I think it's very important. So that's where we always fit in, right? As hustlers, is a lot of times we get to put things back into circulation, much like American Pickers, and it's a lot of fun. I really do like it. So Bleeding Renation, you're a nerd of the game. I am. I love this kind of stuff. I'm telling you, there was a point where I had like 10 RC things in my garage. It was like trucks and stadium trucks, monster trucks, a couple on-road things that were surprisingly pretty boring. A lot of stadium trucks, monster trucks. There's another type of truck I had anyway. And I had buggies, a lot of buggies. So it was a lot of fun. And once you nerd out and you get accustomed to like what's going on, you start figuring out certain things. These things are really, really fun to play with. I'm talking bring it to like a dirt field, start screaming at like 50 miles an hour down the dirt field, having like 15 dogs chasing behind your car. I mean, fun things to do. So it's definitely got its like nerdy type thing, but I don't think it's any different than someone that plays a whole lot of video games, right? It's just one of those things. It's very hands-on. Sometimes it's very risky, right? Because you could be operating these things in precarious conditions where there are people involved. I've actually hit a lady in her tailbone when she was sitting down. I didn't see the thing was these cars, they travel so fast. Some of them travel so fast that you have to be like not looking at the car, but you have to be looking way down the way of where the car will be in a couple seconds. And so I saw the lady a little late, and I managed to pull the brakes pretty good, but it's still clocked her in the tailbone pretty nicely. And she was just having a chat with some other lady. This was like many years ago. And she got kind of pissed. Well, of course, but like if I'd been going full speed, there would probably been an ambulance involved. So very, very interesting. The hobby does get expensive, like Dylan Frey says. Traxxas Slash is a huge seller. That's what Jason Toucher says. And I have a Traxxas Slash. I always have a Traxxas Slash, always. I refuse to never have a Traxxas Slash. It's my favorite RC of all time now. Texas Hustle says, I bet that hurt. Yeah. So, and in the sun by the beach green room. Remember, if you guys remember the green room, I'm really curious to see this, who's in here and everything like that. So, really cool. So, okay. So now we've reviewed Tamiya, Kyosho, F1 type cars. And we've reviewed the gold pan, right? The team associated, there's so many little terms like team associated RC10 gold pan. Okay. So we've reviewed those things. Now I want to talk to you guys about another buggy that was pretty iconic, almost around the same time as the RC10, a little bit later down the road, okay? And when I say the RC10, I usually mean the gold pan. So there was another buggy that was made by Losi, okay? And funny thing is, just last week, one of my guys in the green room was notorious for going to the weigh and pay, right? Which is the place where all the bins go out. You have to like fight everyone to go get some items. He finds this one buggy, post a picture in the green room, tags me, of course, and I start seeing it within minutes, and I'm like, oh my God, I know what that is, right? Now, I didn't say, oh my God, because it's worth a ton of money, because it's not. I said, oh my God, because it's a really rare thing to be finding in that condition. And he said, how much do I actually sell this thing for, right? Because he's totally clueless, but he knows that I'm the RC guy. So anyway, he tags me, I look at it for a second, I'm like, I'm pretty sure that's a Losi JRX2, and very iconic buggy back in the day. I was like, if it's really a JRX2, it's gonna be stamped in the front JRX2. And if you look carefully, there are certain pieces that are stamped JRX2. But a JRX2 was a very, I wouldn't say it's a budget friendly. It's a little bit more budget friendly than the RC10 Gold Pan. Still highly customizable, right? Highly. I mean, literally, like if you go and hustle a vintage buggy lot, for example, you're almost destined to find the RC10 Gold Pan somewhere in there, right? It's like finding Gold Zelda, right? When you mess with NES. You're also likely to find a JRX2, because the JRX2 is just kind of one of those things. If you were one hobbyist, in the RC10 era, 5 years later, let's say 5, maybe 8 years later, you were definitely a hobbyist with the JRX2 era as well. So the JRX2 is not built as well. It's more plastic oriented, but definitely has good resale. So the guy in the green room found it. I was like, I'm pretty sure it's a JRX2, with motor ESC. It had like the receiver didn't have a transmitter or anything. So untested, had the original wheels and everything. And I was like, that thing's going to go for at least 50 to 100 bucks. And he gets back to me within like one day. And he's like, sold for 50 bucks. So anyway, good thing to look for. Let's take a look at the JRX2 right now and see what it looks like, so you guys can get accustomed to it. Present to everyone. All right, slideshow is good. Hopefully we're back on the slideshow. So there's the gold pan. This is what a JRX2 looks like. I mean, look, you can paint these bodies any way you want, okay? But the JRX2, a lot of times, I see them a lot of times with this type of like wheel right here, which is the plastic, almost 5-spoke type wheel. This is a very common way to find it, with, the very knobby back and the very raced out thinner front tire for steering. It's always a 2-wheel drive buggy, okay? Let's look at more pictures of it. This was actually a really good example to find. Like, this JRX2 is beautiful. I've sold tons of JRX2s actually. They almost always go for, in junky condition, no lower than 50 bucks. In really good condition, now you're talking 100 to 200 bucks pretty quickly. This one had a G2 ready on it, reading motor, which is a team associated motor, right? They're all considered brushed cars. None of these are brushless, so they're not deathly fast, but for back then, that was pretty fast, especially when it came to racing. It was a pretty fast car. Condition of tire, very good. One of the things that you want to do when you're putting these on the market is you want to disclose whether any of these tires have flat spots. And what that means is, if someone hasn't touched this car in a while and stored it improperly, there might be a little bit of a flat spot on some of these tires. Now, sometimes when you start using them, and especially if it's going to be on dirt, a lot of times the flat spot, you might not even notice it, right? But a buyer would notice it pretty quickly, especially if they test it out on ground, or, really packed dirt, or concrete, just, taking it around the block real quick. So a flat spot usually occurs when the buggy is not upon a pedestal. So there's like usually a little aftermarket pedestal you can get for these cars. It kind of looks like an A. It looks like a Hot Pocket box. Like the box that the Hot Pocket comes in? Well, if you take the box and you glue, let's say, 2 more boxes on top of it, it would look kind of like that, right? It's more like a structure that raises the buggy chassis off the ground, and it lets the suspension completely unsag, and the wheels basically hover in air, but the buggy is resting in the middle, right? Kind of like a little seesaw. That's the right way to store these things. That way you don't get any flat spots, and yeah, the suspension is not, compressing the whole entire time. So the underside of the JRX2, it's got a very interesting kind of like swing arm, I guess. I don't know if you call it swing arm, but linkages type system right here that goes to the axle, which is back there. This is in very good condition for a JRX2. If you look at the bottom of this, you're like, trust me, I've seen a ton of really bad ones. This actually is a pretty good one. So this is definitely north of $100 all day resale. And this is more than likely also one that was customized with the aluminum shocks and all that kind of stuff. But notice, as opposed to the gold pan RC10 or the team associated RC10 gold pan, this is a plastic chassis, right? So that's definitely one of those different things. Now, if you're wondering, like, how the hell am I going to know if it's a JRX2 or not truly? Like, how can I really figure it out? This one piece right here, all right, will be stamped JRX2. I can see it right there. A lot of times the battery cover might have JRX2 on it. And if you're lucky enough, shoot, people that are souping these things up are pretty proud that they're JRX2, so they'll put JRX2 stickers all over it. See, JRX2 here, JRX2 there. I mean, but I would say out of all the times that I've found them, like, this probably is the best one I've ever found, because most of the times I find them, they're all kind of ragged out, and they're usually looking just like this, no cover at all. So another thing that you want to determine when you're hustling a radio controlled buggy is, do I have what's called a roller, or do I have an actual ATR, like almost ready? How do I say it? They call it, okay, so there's like RTR and there's ATR. RTR is the code word for like ready to race, right? RTR. There's ATR, which is like almost ready to race, and then there's one that's just like for parts only, right? Which would be considered a roller. Now, a roller is when you find these, and trust me, you will find them eventually, where it's all flat in the middle, right? The person hasn't put the ESC or the transmitter receiver in. There's no servo for the front, you'll see the shocks usually, right? There might not even be a motor, right? But then as soon as you see some of this middle stuff hollowed out and it looks real flat and there might not be a motor, that's what's called a roller, okay? It's just a rolling chassis with no kind of power plant behind it, no kind of transmitter going on, nothing. You would classify that as what's called a roller. When it's a roller, you probably want to put it for parts or not working, because it's essentially for parts. Now, when you start having a majority of the stuff there, like the servo's intact, you have, let's say the receiver is right here, but I don't see, let's say, a speed control, which usually is right here, okay? Which, usually back in the day, people are going to put these orange type speed controls. They're made by Novak. It's very common to find any vintage RC with a Novak ESC. Let me go back into the feed and see if I can find one. Here's one right here. So like, that's a Novak ESC. It was just the best thing back in the day, and everyone put Novak ESCs in their cars. So if you look around and you don't see an ESC or something that looks like it doesn't have cooling, you have to look for the thing that has cooling fins, right? ESCs always have some sort of like cooling type top to it. See these little fins? It keeps it a little bit cooler, because this thing will generate a ton of heat right there, because it's basically passing current, through here. I mean, from here all the way to the motor. So it gets very hot. So anyway, yeah, if it's RTR, right, that means it has everything. Like this one right here would be considered ATR, right? Almost ready to go, because it's just needing that Novak ESC right there, and it's ready to go. So this would be an ATR right here. If it's RTR, like I said, it probably looks like, it has everything there, plus it has the chassis. It's ready to go. Truly RTR. All you got to do is you have to pair up like a controller to it and everything like that. So basically RTR. Some people classify, if you can't find the controller that goes to it, you can classify it under ATR if you want to. But when I say RTR, I mean, usually it's in a vintage sense. People are like, yeah, like, we don't care about the controller anyway. They pair it up with something modern day just to race it. So anyway, just kind of a heads up. Okay, so let's talk about this right here. It's a really cheap helmet. Found it at Goodwill. I believe it was like $5.99. This sold locally for $35. Now, why did it sell for $35? Kind of just a normal helmet. It's extra small for females. Considered a scooter helmet, not really motorcycle oriented, but more like scooter. And of course, it's made by HCI, which is kind of a bigger scooter brand helmet maker. This was in good condition. I decided to pop on it because it has the stereotypical Italian colors. And of course, most people, when you think about scooters, they're thinking about, you know, Vespas and all this kind of stuff and Aprilia. And so Italian anything kind of is a good thing when it comes to scooters. So I popped on this, did pretty well. I mean, not pretty, exchanging hands literally like 20 seconds out of my life to meet up with someone at a gas station and 35 bucks in my hand. So definitely look out for that kind of stuff. I think it's definitely worth it. All right, so let's look at this one because it's kind of funny because we can see the pawn shop tag on this one right here. This one came, I held onto this car for a while because there was a point where I thought I was going to build it, but I decided not to. And I'm glad I didn't because I wouldn't have had it today anyway. Like I probably would have sold it down the road. So this is a Ferrari 412 T1, which it's not exactly the best car to have, but it's not the worst car to have. It is a Tamiya, right? Very important. It's a Tamiya. It's a high performance radio control car, blah, blah, blah. It's a Ferrari. It's got great colors. Once you build it out, it's going to look super sick. And I'm glad I didn't, but it's in the box. Okay. So the number one thing, when you see this in a box at a pawn shop, check the price. The funny thing is this one came, I spent $640 at the pawn shop that day and I bought, oh man, there must have been 6 of the ones in the box and then there was like 4 loose ones. Like it was just a crazy haul. So I decided to pull the trigger at 640 bucks. Yeah. So it was actually in the ghetto too. And when I saw them all there, I was like, dude, and I remember seeing them there and getting really excited. And I was like, oh, you know, it's too new at the pawn shop. I can't pull the trigger. This is like a while back, but I like to show these pictures because you guys need to learn some stuff. But yeah, I remember going in and be like, damn, like the thing about the pawn shop is if it just came out, like your bargaining chips are pretty much like non-existent. You may be able to get tax waived off, but essentially you have 0 bargaining power. Now, where you start getting bargaining power is at the 30-day mark. And especially when multiple months pass you by, now you start getting bargaining power. The fact that this pawn shop was in the ghetto was even like a better proposition because like who of a radio controlled like dude is going to pop into this thing and like rescue these things? The answer is pretty much nobody, right? Ghetto pawn shops usually deal with like rims, stereos, you know what I'm talking about. Laptops, they get all this stuff just traded in. Who knows where it really comes from, but who cares? The fact that this has remote control cars in it, it's all I cared about was that pawn shop. I was like, oh my God, this is literally like a gold mine. So I bought them all. I held on. This is the last one I held on to because I sold the entire lot off like piece by piece. It was awesome. I made a ton of money. But this last one right here, I kept for a while. And then I realized, like, I don't think I want to build it. So we know that this one's a 2-wheel drive. We don't see that cylinder thing in the middle. The motor, you know, ESC and all that kind of stuff. Here's the battery tender thing. That's all sitting in this part of the car. It's probably hella fast when it gets running. When I open that box, oh my gosh, like I literally like almost lost my bona fide mind, guys. Like, look at this. It's a very rare, it's a very hard car to find, you know, but it's certainly not super duper rare because you can find them built, but it's rare in a sense that it's in its box, right? So, and yeah, I can't believe that the pawn tag's still on this thing too. It's crazy. But I made sure to kind of shave off where the price was. So I left it on there, but you know, this is like what they look like when you build them. It doesn't look like much. You're kind of like, well, how the hell does all this end up looking like that? And the answer is with a lot of time and effort. A lot. So underneath this is more parts. You can't see it right here. And then right here is like more parts. And right there is the actual shell, which you have to spray paint, you know, colors. And then the decals are like, I think it was under all this. I mean, it's a real deal thing. So definitely something to look forward to when you find new Tamiya. This was outside of that F1 haul. I was only able to find a Tamiya new in the box one other time. And it happened to be a major flip. Well, hopefully we'll get to that one day. It was a big flip. I'm talking almost 600 bucks I sold this one Tamiya thing for. But this one right here sold for $170 unbuilt. So yeah, and you got to understand, this thing had no ESC, no servos. It only comes with, it's basically a roller that comes with a motor. That's all it is. Everyone else has to find their own transmitters and all their own other random stuff. But this one comes with this plus one motor is sitting right there. So for 170, I thought it was pretty good. I was aiming for like 249 for like the longest time, but the market was thin. And I was like, you know what? I'll just do the 170 thing. And I did it. So anyway, that's that. Let me stop for 1 second, see how you guys are doing. Do me a favor right quick. You know, I'm always about creating good content. I'm always about doing different type shows. The 10 items that sold shows seem to do pretty well. People always request for them back, so that's why I'm here. But do me a favor, if you enjoy this video, I think it's really important that show your support and hit that like button. On my last ride along, I say that I don't really ask for the like a whole lot, which I should. And sometimes I wait till the very end of the video to do it. And I'm just going to ask you guys now that I think you should hit it. Anyway, but it is good to see you guys. There's so many really amazing, there's so many great people here in the feed, by the way. I see so many good people. Let me shout some people out real quick. Mr. 2 Easygoing, Cape Cod, In the Sun by the Beach. Oh, I love that name. Scarlett Lopez, what is up? Mr. DJ Cider. Hey, by the way, if you guys have a question, let me know real quick, okay? Angela Meher says, I bought my X 1 years ago, which I'm assuming she says like it's a radio controlled something for $500, which is not uncommon. Most radio controlled decent cars these days will cost $500 and above. He broke it the second day. When I first got my first radio control car in professional lifestyle, which was like after I was, had money pouring in and everything like that, that was what's called a Traxxas T-Max. Yes. A Traxxas T-Max 0.15 nitro gas motor, and I went all the way to Round Rock, Texas to pick it up, and I got, the guy demonstrated it in front of me and everything like that, and I was like, holy crap, that is the coolest thing I've ever seen. It went over grass, and it was 4-wheel drive, and I was like, this thing is rad, man. I can't wait to go home and mess with it. And I go home, and it's like nearly impossible to start up and everything like that, and that's where the real love for radio control came back for me. It was in my professional life. Once I started the consulting job and all that kind of stuff, I had a good amount of money rolling in, so I bought a whole lot of RC. But then that's where once you love something so much, you start dismantling it, like doing all kinds of crazy stuff, souping it up, and you want to have one of everything, right? You want to try the whole different thing, and that's just how it is. So I've went down the entire line. I have race cars, buggies, trucks, airplanes, helicopters, like you name it. Like right now, I'm simple. Like right now, I have a stadium truck. I have a Slash. I have a rock crawler. I have multiple aircraft in my garage, a jet in my garage, and I have a drone. Like I'm pretty happy with that, honestly. But there was a point where it was getting kind of out of control, like really crazy, to where I had shelves in my garage full of radio controlled stuff, like the vehicle, the remote control, the vehicle, the remote control. It was just like shelves of this stuff. So if you thought I got nuts with bikes, I've always been pretty into bikes, but I was really heavily into radio control stuff for a while, to the point where I was visiting the nerd shop like nearly every day. There was a solid 2 or 3 month period where I was visiting the nerd shop, and I call it the nerd shop because it's right down the road. It's like 4 miles that way, and it is the best radio control shop in Austin, Texas. So that kind of sucked. If that place had been like on the other side of town, I probably wouldn't have had the knack, for RC as much. But the fact that this thing is like right down, it's almost like an enabler, right? It's like, oh, anyway. So I spent a lot of money in that place. I mean, thousands and thousands of dollars like just poured into that place. Anyway, In the Sun by the Beach says, I love to fix things and make them usable again. I'm totally with you. I did it with bikes. I did it with radio control stuff. I just do it with random stuff. Like just doesn't, if I love it, I'm going to probably take it apart. I'm probably going to soup it up. That's just what I do. Yeah. So anyway, okay, so I think we're good. There's so many comments coming in. I really appreciate you guys stopping by. Let's get into the, if there's any more comments, tons of comments, right? If you guys have a question, then let me know. Here you go. Here's a question right here. What kind of items do you sell in your antique booth? A little bit off topic, but I'll elaborate really quickly. Give me 1 second. So in the antique booth, I'm allowed to sell retro, vintage, and antique stuff, right? What type of items sell well? Because clearly anything retro, vintage, antique, I can sell in the booth. To answer your question, I'm just going to take it a little step further because I think this is what you're kind of getting at, is what sells really well in the booth. I'll tell you right now, Pearl Snap shirts, boots, interesting sneakers, t-shirts. T-shirts are huge. T-shirts with great subject matter, trucker hats, coolers. Coolers are real good. Suitcases, anything leather goods related, love it. Except for like, you wouldn't want to put Harley Davidson chaps, for example, in there. No one's going to care about that. But I'm talking about like leather bags, I mean, there's so many times I have to go back to my eBay listings and yank certain things because I see them selling in the booth. Sometimes I have them double listed, right? There's that. Interesting mugs, neon stuff, bar mirrors, you name it. It's probably sold in my booth. Globes, right? Globes are good. Oh, anything militaria, ammo boxes, rocket launcher boxes, mortar shells. I've had so many crazy things. I've had pieces of airplane fuselages in my booth at one point. I've had things that belong to top secret NASA stuff, like just cases that were on aircraft that I know probably went like stratospheric. A lot of weird things have been in my booth, but it's one of those places where it allows me to rescue some of this amazing vintage, retro, and antique stuff, and not have to like leave it behind because it's too big, right? Or leave it behind because, oh, I'm afraid of the shipping. And I like to be a hustler of all goods. I think it's very important. That way I'm super diversified. And if one of my income streams gets wiped out, at least I have the other ones, carrying me forward. So I think if you look into a vintage booth or antique booth, make sure you have a lot of traffic. That's the number one thing. I'm going to be building an antique booth / guide / course very soon. In fact, in the next week or two, it should be done. And I think that obviously it's going to be free for the green room, but we're going to we'll probably put it on the open market and, and just at some point give a deal on it. But anyway, that's the antique booth right there. Okay, so in the sun by the beach, this is a great question. How about some shows to teach us how to fix things? That could be really good. But usually when I fix something, it's not super fast. I mean, it's like I'm taking my time and I'm not trying not to strip any screws out. Like that's the thing when you deal with radio controlled stuff, for example. I mean, you're dealing with either a screwdriver or these little hex driver things. And you have to be real careful with some of this stuff, because if you're going to replace a part, for example, because it's going to make you more money in the end to sell the car intact working, then there's been many cases where I've stripped something, right? Or that's the worst. Once you strip something on a radio control car, it's very hard to get something out, reverse drilled. There's all kinds of stuff like that. You want to make sure that the power is matched with the ESC and the motor. There are a lot of things that you would want to pair up the wrong battery with the car, right? That'll just blow your ESC up. A lot of weird things to do. I don't know if I can get some like fixie things. Maybe with like bikes, I could do it in the sun by the beach, but I don't know about radio control car stuff. Cat for Breakfast says, have you talked about the value of New Bright brand 10th scale bodies? I always tell green room people, look out for this stuff. I'm always putting posts about crawler bodies. In the past 30 days, I've sold two. One sold for, I want 80 something, and the other one sold for $109.99, something like that. Anyway, so two New Bright bodies. Dirt cheap. I mean, the one that sold for 80 something bucks, like that was like a $2 Jeep. That Brock Parks Orange Elephant was there when I bought that one. And then the other one was one I found at a garage sale for like $1, and it like sold for like 100 or 109. I can't remember because it was just the other day too. I don't pay attention anymore. I just know that it sells for good money. That's all I care about. So yeah, I should. Cat for Breakfast, that's a really good question. The funny thing is I thought about making a YouTube video about it when I had the crawler body, but I have this thing that when I get back from my garage sales and stuff, I tend to like really disperse my items quickly. And that's kind of a bad thing. When you're a content creator, you kind of want to keep it together so you can teach people all that kind of stuff, take pictures, all that stuff. I'm getting so sophisticated is not the word. I'm getting so streamlined in my business to where things don't really stay at the house very long. And I think that's very important. It doesn't pollute my head anymore. I get my head clear for green room stuff and all this other stuff that goes during the week that no one really ever gets to see, all the prep and the conference calls. So I can't afford to keep this stuff around anymore. Very often I will put a haul in the green room, a private haul that's done usually on Sundays. It's called Bonafide Fresh Finds. And it just shows you the stuff that I came home with literally before it goes into boxes. Like I hold it just for a little bit, and then after that, it's all boxed up and it's gone. So I wouldn't say it's gone, but it's up on the shelf and I ain't touching that after that. So, okay. It's good to see you guys. One last comment I will recite. Roots Radical 1808 or 1808, something like that. I love Hey Bonafide Hustler. Well, I love watching you, Steve Rake and Rockstar Flipper. Been on eBay for a little over a month now. Congratulations. And I've been thinking about joining the green room in the near future. Hey, I'll let the people in the feed determine whether you should join the green room. So if you love the green room people in the feed, tell them. If you hate it, tell them what you hate about it. I'm cool with whatever, honestly. Let's go into the show. Because we're at about have 17 more minutes. I always like to keep these shows about an hour long so you can get like an action-packed hour. So, you get your learning on, and that way, you get to make some money on behalf of me. I hope you do. I really do. Because there's nothing that makes me more happy sometimes than just getting a Facebook message like, Bonafide, you were so right about this, or, I flipped many of these thanks to you, and it's really a humbling kind of thing. And in fact, the last meetup we had in Austin, Texas, which was in July, this guy came to it, which I had seen the name before in the room, right? I'd seen his name before many times because he's always talking to people in the room and all that kind of stuff. But he comes up to me while I'm eating my tacos and he's like, "Can I have a word with you?" I was like, "Absolutely." Like, yeah, you know. He comes up to me, sits next to me, and he looks at me like he's like, "I just want to like tell you thank you for opening me up to the bike market. I live in Seattle." And I was like, "Seattle, dude, no, okay." So this dude's definitely doing well with bikes. But he's like, "Yeah, I followed your rules and I watched your videos and had your book." And he's like, dead on, like dead on, absolute amazing income stream. Told me the whole story, and I was like, dude, that is so awesome. To the point where I might try to get him on a show, you know, when we talk about bikes one day, because that seems to be one of those underutilized things on my channel. I don't talk about bikes. I mean, I talk about bikes. You see me finding them, but the true what's going on behind my head, I usually don't make videos about that, and I need to. So I would like to get him on the hangout as well. So he'd be really cool. It's just a guy that, you know, just like any one of you guys out there, just decided like, you know what, I'm going to learn something new. Bought resources, right? I think he tried without the bikes to bucks thing first, and he did okay, moderately well. And then I think that kind of just supercharged him further into it. So anyway, I have created a guide. It's called Bikes to Bucks. I don't really ever talk about it, just because it's sitting there in the room for free in the green room. But when I do a show about bikes, I'll make sure to put a discount code and help you guys out that want to buy it. Maybe I'll do a 50% or something to make it affordable. Well, it's affordable, but you know, make it even more affordable so you guys can have some fun and learn some things on a discount, right? That's what we're in the business for, is finding the deals. Okay, enough rambling and ranting. Man, that was a huge rant. My God, I might have to like get out of this room because that rant was so big. Like, there's no room for me in this rant. I mean, this is like a 15 by 15 off, maybe a 10 by 10 office, man. This rent has easily smoked up everything except for like 20 square feet. Not even 20 square feet, 20 square inches. Okay. One of the things I want to talk to you guys about are these little unicycles. And this is just more of a principle. Like, I honestly can't remember what I bought and sold this thing for, but I'm almost positive that was $5 or below, because usually I don't pull the trigger after $5 on these things. If I remember correctly, this one, the nut was very, almost like, not welded on, but there's a, you know, it's like when something galls to something else. I don't know what that term is, but when like you have an aluminum piece that like bonds to, like, you know, someone over tightened it, right, and over time it bonds. I think it's galling or something. It happens to spark plugs sometimes and all this kind of stuff, but essentially it just fuses itself to the new metal, right? So I think that happened here. It was at one height, you know, great condition, Swin retro cycle. It's not a vintage, but it's a retro one, right? 24-inch wheel. This could be a 26-inch wheel, actually. It might have been 26. Either way, definitely messed around with it. Almost killed myself. My neighbor almost killed himself too. I mean, look, when you hustle these things, guys, and you're a guy, you know, if you're a dude and you're semi-active, I guarantee you're going to try to bust your ass and kill yourself on this, because as soon as my neighbor saw it, he literally like yanked it from my hands. He's like, "That's it. Let's ride this thing." And I'm like, "Bro, you have no idea what's about to happen." And he won the competition between both of us. Like, he got the most pedals out of it, which was only like 3 strokes, and then he completely wiped out. So when you mess with these things, you probably want to be hanging onto a tree, right? You also want to be in grass, hopefully, right? So everything's softer and when you hit the ground. But what you want to do is you want to try to aim for like the 50 or above on Craigslist, local kind of thing when it deals with this, or let's say a Torker or any of these other ones. I've hustled some really interesting looking ones. Some that even look like octopus legs coming down, like some really crazy things. But unicycles for sure, definitely check them out. There's a following for them, and people want these vintage ones, these chrome ones. They want these tough ones that are, you know, going into trails. They just want those kind of things. So look for unicycles. Don't be shy. $5 or below. If you live in a halfway decent outdoorsy town, or where you see people that are working out, I guarantee you there's some unicycle nerd that wants this thing for $50 and higher. So be on the lookout for that. This next picture, I don't know why I put it in here. So we are going to go away from this violin. There's a violin. Sweet. I forgot how much I paid for this. Believe it was probably at a garage sale. And yeah, it's just a violin. I'm not going to act like I know a whole lot of violins, because I don't. So I'm definitely not going to pretend like I know a whole lot about it. I don't know. I dragged this picture in on accident, and I don't want to delete it. I just want to re-drag it back into my hard drive. So anyway, there's a violin. Sweet, right? And it sold for $1 million, and I spent $1 on it. So there you go. That's the story of the violin. Hope I could teach you more. All right. Here is, let's start decoding this together, guys. So what do we have here? AE, right? Team Associated. Now, if you're smart and you're listening to this entire program, what do we have here? We have a gold pan RC10. All right. So very important. We have a gold pan RC10 chilling right here. Remember on the other one, the A-arm was broken. On this one, I don't believe this is the no, I don't think this is the same one because yeah. So anyway, this is a whole different one that looks very identical. I don't know how I'm finding them with these street slicks on it, but like I said, when I purchase these things, sometimes I just lowball people. I trade them for certain things. Then I try to throw it up for minimum $100 all the way up to about 19-ish or something like that. So here we go, another gold pan, bam. And really nice, has a bunch of vintage stickers on it too. So we have people that mess with these are going to want to put really interesting, how do I say it, graphics. And here we have a Novak sticker, right, which is that ESC sticker, that orange thing. Beautiful car. There's the ESC. Battery tray right here, right? Battery goes in the middle. What do we have? Do we have a roller or do we have like a ATR or RTR? I mean, I basically consider this RTR. It's ready to go. You put a there. You basically list it as an attested by RTR. Like it's kind of hard to explain. Like you can get away with it. Essentially, you could, hook up a battery, and if you see that the wheels twitch, I mean, you already know there's continuity of power going around. Very seldomly will you see these blown out to where they don't work. So yeah, and it's essentially, this is what we have right here. I guarantee you that whoever buys this doesn't really even care how much is working because they're just going to rebuild the whole thing, or they're going to take some parts off of here and put it on their own that broke. So yeah, I try to take as good pictures as I can. This one has a different bottom, a State Farm sticker. Who cares? These little pictures, why I take this picture really doesn't really matter. It's just showing a little bit of what's going on. It can be misleading when you take the pictures at certain angles though. Like this one makes the pan look super, super good. You're like, holy crap, that's in very good condition. But then you get some of these other pictures and you have to make sure you get some of these other ones and you start realizing how much wear is on this one. It's not too bad, but it's certainly not as good as that last one that we looked at. Anyway, be on the lookout for the gold pan. Very, very, very important, okay? Just wanted to clarify it and re-clarify it and ingrain it in your head, guys. Okay, now let's talk about this next thing, which is very hard to get a good picture about when it comes to beer mirrors, okay? Beer mirrors are tough to get a good shot because everything reflects in the shot out. Now here we have a squirrel that's in my neighborhood, and this squirrel has a lift on it, right? So it's a jacked up squirrel, and yeah, for more clearance. And this is a Schlitz beer mirror, and the Schlitz ones do pretty well. When you do hustle a mirror, you want to be very careful with it. Obviously, you want to keep it, I guess, upright as much as possible. If you lay it down in the car and it's laying on other things, high chance you're probably going to break it by the time you get home. So you definitely want to, put it vertically, kind of like you see when you go down the highway and you see that person that has the truck that with the A-frame on the back and it has those windshields on it, you know what I'm talking about? Like you want to store it like that. But a Schlitz mirror in my booth would go for minimum like $50 all the way up to about $100. So when I pop on these, I believe this one was like a $5 one at a garage sale. Pretty nice mirror. Look at this. Like everything in the background is like showing every single thing. So it's tough to get a good shot. But anyway, there we go. Schlitz mirror. Okay, let's go to the next thing. This is one of my largest regrets in life when it comes to hustling, was selling these. Now I'm going to look up real quick what I sold this thing for. Take a guess, guys. What did I sell these Reebok pumps? These are authentic vintage Reebok pumps. What did I sell them for? Because I'm about to figure it out here in 1 second. I knew I forgot one little thing on this broadcast that I was like, I need to look that one up. But yeah, these are beautiful. These were size 12, my size and everything. Oh, I was super ticked that I got rid of them. But I don't know, like to this day, I've still haven't found a sneaker find that got me so excited than when the day I found these. If I'm not mistaken, I found these at a Salvation Army. They were like dirt cheap. They were like, what, $10? To me, I mean, look, for Reebok pumps in this condition, that's pretty freaking cheap, trust me. They were a little tarnished, and they needed some help, and I cleaned them all the way up, got them all badass looking. So let's figure out what the price of this. What do you guys think? $89.99, $125. First of all, do you guys think these are even cool? Am I like overreacting? Because I get super excited about this. Like, I don't think anyone understands because I grew up in this exact era and I never had them. So that's the problem, is my parents were responsible parents. They didn't buy me Jordans, and they didn't buy me pumps or LA catapults or British Knights. Like I didn't get any of that. I got freaking like McGregor things, right? I got really, really like Spalding is what I had. I had Spalding high tops, which I still was like, kind of cool, but not really that cool. But this was one of my big regrets, to the point where I'm like, I think I should just like pay up on eBay and get a real pair, like a real good pair, So let me look this up real quick. Everyone's taking their bids on what it sold for. Let me type it into my Yahoo Mail here. Reebok pump. Delete my emails. That's just good. And I will definitely here we go. Found it. What did it sell for? Nope, that's a different one actually. Well, I guess I've hustled a couple Reebok pumps. Let me see here. Vintage Reebok pumps. Here we go. This must be the one. Okay, now this is where it's kind of surprising, right? And this is where I know this is the reason why I was ticked off. Now I kind of realize how the things are coming together. So vintage Reebok pumps, they sold to a guy named Abundio Martinez, who lives in Washington. Size 12, my size. Let's see who got closest, right? Because now, because this is a little bit back in the day, Swamp Picker's the closest. These actually sold for $59.99. Now do you see why I'm pissed? Like, I didn't even get what I thought was top. I mean, now these things would go for like really, really great money. I see people guessing these amazing. They're guessing what I would probably have sold them for today, but I guess back then, $59.99 was a steal for these. I know Cape Cod resell. Oh, I'm telling you, man, Cape Cod resellers saying, "Ouch." I know. Blissed life. I'm with you. I'm with you. I'm with you. So, yeah, it had the hex light bottom and everything. I'm talking. I really wish I had kept these, but someone said it's in the laces. The laces can be redone. I mean, all that kind of stuff. This person walked with a steel. The pumps worked fine. The deflate valve worked great. Yeah, I do miss these shoes. I kind of wish I had them. I really do. So, $59.99. Crazy. I'm telling you, like it kind of got to me. So let's now talk about. Let me go back to my program here. I think that's a couple more. Yeah. Okay. So this right here, Tommy Bahama ladies watch, right? This is a Salvation Army find for less than $10. I remember that. It does have that, I think, mother of pearl inlay kind of thing. I guess that's what you call it, where it's kind of like, you know what I'm talking about. Anyway, so nice leather band, woven leather band, beautiful watch. Ladies, flip it over, it looks nice. This one, $82.99 sold for. First class rate, of course. Working watch, yes, it was already ticking the day I bought it, so that was cool. Thought it was, it was a pretty nice little flip. Tommy Bahama stuff. The shirts might be saturated in some sense, but some of this other accessory type stuff, you definitely want to kind of look out for it if you can. This one wasn't good. This one was like a mint. I mean, the bezel, everything was like scratch free. It was so nice. So there you go. Tommy Bahama watch. You can see on the back, 0 scratches. It was a great condition. All right, one of the last things I want to talk about, which is this bike. Yeah, I think this is the last thing up on the docket here. Okay, so this bike right here, I bought off Craigslist for $300. All right, for $300, and I lowballed someone that was asking $600 for it. And the guy was like, if you can, it's working pretty decent, but it's not 100%. And I was like, whatever. I sent him a $300 offer, and he didn't get back to me pretty much immediately. But that's the thing about offers, guys, is that to not put an offer forward is dumb. You want to put an offer out for things where you're like, you know what, even if it's a low ball, put it out there. You know why? Because people are in weird cash situations all the time, right? And it took, 1 week, and the guy got back to me. So something must have happened where he was like, you know what, like maybe the realistic value of this bike is really like 4 or 5, right? And maybe 3 is decent to get rid of it right now. So I gave him 3 for this bike. I bought it in Zilker Park. That's where I test rode it. And it had slicks, which kind of irritated me, but I was like, all right, as soon as I get home, I'm going to change those out. This is a Kona Stinky Deluxe Rasta Edition bicycle, 26-inch wheels. I think it was like an 01. I mean, it's an old mountain bike, guys. Coil shock. Stinky. So it's called a Stinky. Kona Stinkies back then were known to have coil shocks right here. The funny thing is the travel of this bike was probably no more than like 100 to 120 millimeters, which today, in today's days, I mean, today's standards, that would be considered a cross-country mountain bike. But back then in 01, this was considered like an all-mountain, like kind of a brawler type bike. So anyway, as soon as I saw it, I was like, you know what? I've got to make it mine. I had tires sitting in my garage that were trail tires. Like I was like, I can put that on there. I knew how to work on shifters. Whatever was going to pose an issue to me outside of the shocks, I was like, I can do it, and I can do it myself. I don't have to outsource any of that. I can just do it myself. The shocks worked fine, and the coil was still. The coils usually never go bad, right? But the shock was good. Disc brakes, hydraulic disc brakes too, right? Which is crazy. For 01, hydraulic disc brakes was a really big deal. Here's another picture of it. I mean, it's a really, really rare Stinky Deluxe. Large frame, really nice paint condition. I mean, hardly any scratches on it. Look at this. I mean, like just really no nicks or nothing. Had some XT parts on it. Clearly the cassette was relatively on the new side. You know, the shock, everything was so nice. I believe it was a vanilla shock, had race face component. It was a souped up edition of that bike. I bet you back in the day, that bike was somewhere in the 1200 range, which back in 01 for a mountain bike was like atrocious, okay? So 1200 was like, holy crap, that's expensive as hell. Now 1200 doesn't buy you anything in mountain biking land. Like, you literally have to spend $3 to $5 grand to get something of halfway decent quality sometimes. But anyway, so yeah, even down to the Bomber 2001 fork, there it is. Beautiful bike. I rode this thing for damn near a year. In fact, I made it on one of my Bonafide Hustler videos for a contest kind of thing. And then the funny thing is, in the contest, I think I only had like 92 entries. So I put like a little sticker, 92 stickers around this rim. And what I did was I went down this hill, and I think it was 92. It was somewhere, I mean, it was just not that many. So like I put 92, or let's say it's 92 stickers around this rim. I went blazing down this hill, and I think I put a little card or a little like Price is Right type thing, you know, that shows the number, like wherever I get at the bottom of the hill, and whenever I stop, I'm going to look and I'm going to see whose number is up there with the actual card, like, you know, pointing to one number. And that's how I picked the winner. I used to do some crazy things back in the day for the Bonafide Hustler channel. I need to get back to doing that kind of stuff. But anyway, yeah, this was a relic of a bike. Absolutely amazing. I rode it for a year. I trashed the absolute crap out of this bike. I did it not to the point where I wrecked it and all that kind of stuff, but I rode the crap out of this bike. And guys, I sold it for $550 on Craigslist a year later. So that's a great way to end this actual broadcast. You know, you can get an amazing lifestyle and amazing bikes and amazing whatever the hell you want through hustling. You can do all that kind of stuff. I think you can actually do some pretty crazy things, right? Just don't be really impulsive when it comes to like, oh, I got to have it now. Like all that, you know, give yourself a time to look, right? And if you look actively and you use up all your avenues, offer up, Craigslist, whatever, and you still can't find what you need, then yeah, maybe buy it full price. But like for the most part, give yourself some time, you know, a couple months. Like if you're on the market for a wakeboard, surfboard, skateboard, bicycle, hybrid bicycle, road bike, you know what I'm talking about. I mean, there's plenty out there for really good deals. And remember, people are in really, really weird cash situations all the freaking time. All the time, especially at this time of the year. Why? Because we've got the holidays coming around. People want to buy gifts for each other. That's still money, right? That money has to come from somewhere, and these gifts can't be used. So they have to be purchased at full price. So a lot of these people, you know, either put it on credit, which is great, but we all know that credit's not the solution. They'll start selling some of their stuff at weird prices at this time of the year. And that's one of those things that don't be afraid to do a low ball, right? A low ball is what you're willing to pay right now to inherit whatever item that is with whatever problems it has, considering you might have to fix certain things on it. And that's basically what it comes down to. So there's no insulting thing going on with you know, if you word your stuff right when you make these offers, you can make it really non-hostile, just like, hey, I got my money right now. This is my budget. I always like to say it kind of like that. Like, my budget right now for this is this. Should you, you know, if you are interested, I am mobile and cash is ready. Like, those are really powerful statements. Mobile means, oh man, like I could get paid right now for this thing. Cash is ready means like, holy crap, like this dude doesn't have to go to an ATM or like, you know, doesn't have to ask permission from anyone else. Dude ready to buy, right? So there's a lot of things you can do with the right wording when it comes to Craigslist or OfferUp, for example. Anyway, I do hope you enjoyed the show. And I did the best I could. You know, if you guys loved it, hated it, whatever, there's a thumbs up and a thumbs down kind of button right there. So pick accordingly. And the other thing I wanted you guys to do is also leave a comment if you can. If you didn't get to catch it live, leave a comment. If you like this 10 items that sold kind of tutorial type show, then, you know, the comments is what I read after the fact. Last thing I want you guys to do is download 100 amazing items to resell. It's sitting right down there in a link. It might sound very repetitive because we kind of, you know, tout this thing a lot, but honestly, I'm telling you right now, like if you don't know these 100 items, you're missing out on some pretty big money. So anyway, love talking to you guys. Thanks for keeping it positive. Anytime you see Bonafide Hustler videos, hit the like button because vlogs are coming out, ride-alongs are coming out. I got probably 70 gigs worth of stuff that's in back. Like I haven't edited it yet. So there's a lot of great stuff coming out. And I'm going to start putting it out effective tomorrow. So there was a vlog that came out yesterday or something, or right along that came out yesterday. That was really epic. Definitely want to check. I want you guys to check it out. It's on my channel right now. But tomorrow another vlog comes up. I think it's going to be a vlog and then it's a ride along, then a ride along. You'll see. Anyway, thanks for being here, guys. Good to see you. Take it easy. Bye-bye.